Here's a good motorcycle wrench to have in your saddlebag. Now I know a lot of people would take the vice grips, and to tell you the truth, I got a little pair of vice grips in the saddlebag too. But you really can't carry a whole socket set with you. Not that you really need it all the time, but could be that one time in many where you might need, I'll take a screwdriver, a Phillips, a regular screwdriver, and a couple tools, a spark plug wrench, this thing, and vice grips. But this is one of those, this is made by GATOR. I know they got a bunch of these different types out here that, this is called a GATOR grip. That's the name brand one. And some of the ones that are made that look like this aren't of the same quality. This thing, I know it says that you replace any size socket, but, I wouldn't use this, definitely don't use this for your, replace your main sockets or nothing. But if you're on a motorcycle and you really can't carry a lot with you, and you want to have something that can pretty much work for a lot of different things, this is a good thing, because this will go up to about 3/4 of an inch and down to 1/4. Yeah, it goes up to 3/4 of an inch, which is 19 millimeter, and down to 1/4 inch, which is 6 millimeter. And it fits, it'll fit rounded out bolts and things like that. So just put it on here. This is like pretty tight, and yeah, it fits right on there, man. And if you go to tighten it up again. Now, the one thing I found that you can have a problem with these is the pins. You want to keep these pins oiled, and throw some trans fluid in there, gear oil or something like that. Just make sure it's oiled, and keep this in a plastic bag if you got it on your motorcycle, because you don't want this to get rusty. Because if this gets rusty and the springs in there get rusty, the springs could get weak, or these pins can jam up, and then it's not going to work right. If this thing doesn't get rusty, and it's the name brand GATOR USA, this thing works pretty damn well, actually, surprisingly good. The wrench I got in it with is a vintage Curtis Wright wrench. It's made in USA. It's a little bit shorter. It's got like a plastic handle on it. It's probably about 50, 60 years old. It's from my great uncle, actually. Can't find that stuff around, but I like it because it's small and it fits in a small plastic bag. And with this thing being oiled up, it's not going to rust in a small black plastic bag, especially with some gear oil or trans oil in it. But it's a handy wrench for motorcycles. I mean, I'm not going to tell you to go work on everything on there is on your car with it. That's kind of crazy, This could have certain special purpose applications, though. Say if you got a rounded out bolt. I know, like if you got a rounded out 9/16, a 14 millimeter fit on there a little tighter. Sometimes some of the metrics will fit on there a little bit tighter. Sometimes you can use channel locks, or not just the vice grips, but these channel locks, to get out rounded out bolts. But then sometimes you don't have room to get the channel locks in there, so this might work. This will work on wing nuts, hex style bolts. Maybe you got a wrench that, special types of sockets, which I have here, that maybe I'm not going to have them on my motorcycle, and this will work to get the damn fastener off or whatever I got to do. Say sometimes once in a great while I might break a bolt on a motorcycle because the vibration from the V-twin sometimes breaks a bolt, and I'll replace that bolt with a grade 8 bolt, and then it never breaks again. But generally don't have problems, but I like having something on me that can suffice for a lot of different size sockets, and this is the tool to have. But like again, the GATOR grip is the brand to get. It's not a freaking sales pitch, but I found out some of the other, they sell Chinese versions of these damn things, and they don't work, man. They could break, they could fall apart. I mean, maybe they might work, but I know the GATOR grip one works pretty good. Like I said, the only disadvantage is you got to watch out is throw some oil in here. Mobile One, trans fluid, gear oil, or something like that, and keep this thing in a plastic bag, Ziploc bag, in your saddlebag. And it's a good wrench to have on you because, yeah, it works for a lot of different things. Now, maybe your headlight is coming loose or something like that. The bracket that holds the headlight on there or something like that, or something's vibrating loose. You can always tighten it up with this damn thing. So, small, compact, does a lot of different things. And they do work. They do work. So make sure you get the USA version of it, because the Chinese versions, usually what happens with them, these pins get all crooked and cockeyed, and they might fall out. Now, that can happen with the USA version if you allow it to get rusty. These pins will get stuck down in here, and, you know, if the rust basically eats away the steel after a while, then these pins aren't going to be held in there good. But if it's kept in good condition, if it's kept oiled, and it's kept rust-free, this thing actually is pretty damn strong. I'm surprised. It's a pretty strong socket. Well, actually, it says 7mm to 19mm. I thought, well, 1/4 inch is around. It's like 6.1 or 2 millimeters. So, but it goes from 1/4 inch to 3/4. Gator grip. Make sure you get the right brand, though, by Endeavor, because some of these other ones are really crapola, man. They do fall apart. And make sure you keep, again, I'm telling you for the 50th time, because it's very important. Make sure, and don't just put WD-40 in here, because WD-40 it's real lightweight shit. Put some like Mobil 1 or Trans Fluid, you know, something like gun oil, you know, something like that, which could be Trans Fluid or Mobil 1, you know, put something like that in there. As long as these pins are lubed and they're working free and they're not going to rust up the springs in here, this thing will hold up. This thing is pretty damn strong. You'd be surprised. This thing, actually, you'll be able to take off a bolt with this better than that. And you're not going to screw up the bolt head with it either, too. So, plus you got better room to get in there with this damn thing, too. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you'll see, it says Gator grip. Looks like a freaking Gator, made in USA. And I just keep it in that, along with my spark plug wrench and extra fuel cap there and a couple other things. But I keep this tool definitely in here because I don't want those pins getting rusty.